Welcome to the Resource Nexus podcast. Check out the latest articles, stats, and full rankings at theresourcenexus.com. The most underrated team in America? The AP's big miss on Gonzaga. Gonzaga, ranked number 5 by TRN, number 21 in the AP. That's a 16-spot gap, and that gap might be the most telling in the entire poll. One major outlet even had them at 24. It's a clear example of where analytics and reputation diverge. AP voters seem to be bracing for a big regression from a team that finished 7th in NET last year and returns its superstar who drove most of that success. But here's what's being overlooked. Gonzaga quietly returns the foundation that isn't just good. It's built to explode statistically if they simply optimize their usage patterns. The ceiling on this team rises dramatically the moment Mark Few leans harder into Ike and Huff minutes. They have another gear, one that rarely gets discussed or even noticed. Even playing at their current minutes last year, they were still the biggest drivers of a top 7 or top 8 team in the metrics, and almost certainly both will play more this year. Let's start with Graham Ike, the engine that elevates everyone. His value goes far beyond the box score. Ike inflates his teammates' assist rate simply by being on the floor, by being a walking bucket. 42.9 points per 100 possessions, top 2 in the nation. He's at a .656 true shooting clip, and we saw it at Wyoming. Hunter Maldonado's assist rate jumped into elite territory largely because of Ike. It wasn't that Maldonado suddenly became a world-class passer. When Ike moved on to Gonzaga the next season, Maldonado's assist dropped nearly 40%. That exact dynamic repeated itself last season with Ryan Nembhard. People love to talk about Nembhard's floor general ability, but the truth is Ike's post ability did the heavy lifting. He drew doubles, opened driving lanes, and forced rotations that made Nembhard's reads simple, even when Nembhard was finishing easy assists himself. When Ike was healthy and in rhythm, Gonzaga's efficiency spiked across the board. You can literally track their offensive pulse to his minutes. If Gonzaga simply plays Ike and Huff more, they should immediately regain top 10 offensive form. The sample of Ike and Huff playing together is only 101 possessions, but it was dominant at plus 41.7. Talent ultimately matters to get the best players on the court, and these two are among the top in the nation. Ike top 5, Huff pushing top 100 statistically. Mario Saint-Supéry, the pro-ready X Factor. Then there's Mario Saint-Supéry, arguably the most under-discussed addition of any program this offseason. He comes from the ACB, the second strongest league in the world after the NBA. Not some developmental afterthought, but a professional league filled with former NBA and EuroLeague players. At just 18, Saint-Supéry posted an 18 PER on a 25% usage rate in that league. He was the 4th leading scorer on a .500 team. For context, that's production, not even comparable to high-level college veterans, but he was doing it against grown men with years of pro experience. In one box score, there were about a dozen like this. He had a 17.5 assist game in 22 minutes on 10 shots with only 2 turnovers against a team featuring 6 former NBA players aged 25 to 30. And there were multiple games like this on his resume. Watching some video, his game fits perfectly with Gonzaga's structure: powerful frame, advanced handle, scoring instincts, and the ability to create and finish through contact. He's not a freshman guard learning the college game. He's a pro who's already forced to make reads against elite competition. If Few hands him the keys, Saint-Supéry can become the connective guard that blows away the role players Nembhard managed, but with far more scoring upside. Ryan Nembhard, floor general myth. For all the talk about veteran leadership and steady floor generals, the numbers make it clear. Ryan Nembhard was one of the most overrated players in college basketball over the last few seasons. At Gonzaga, he posted just a 17% usage rate and a .540 true shooting percentage. pedestrian efficiency numbers that came while playing in a low-pressure scoring role against roughly 70th ranked strength of schedule competition. Even then, he averaged just 10 points in 35 minutes per game, and all these numbers were even worse the previous season as well. That's not a lead guard carrying an elite offense. That's a system player managed and propped up by the talent around him like Ike. Now enter Mario Saint-Supéry, and the contrast couldn't be sharper. He comes from the ACB, the second best professional league in the world after the NBA, a league filled with grown men, not college sophomores. At just 18, he put up a 25% usage rate, a .620 true shooting percentage, and a 25.3 assist rate. Elite efficiency and playmaking against professional defenses. Nembhard had an 18 PER versus the 70th best college schedule, mostly against the WCC. Saint-Supéry had an 18 PER versus the ACB in 33 games. There's no comparison, yet many national pundits think there will be a massive drop-off. Some even think he will not win the starting job over a Patriot League transfer who had a .500 true shooting percentage there. That's not a potential argument. That's proof of production at a higher level of competition. His PER in the ACB was nearly identical to Nembhard's in the WCC in the aggregate. The difference being that Saint-Supéry did it against EuroLeague caliber opponents, while Nembhard struggled against even competition comparable to the best in college, especially when the top 35 teams last year faced schedules more typical of the top three. Few doesn't need another safe point guard. He's already shown he can win with dynamic, multi-level scorers like Dan Dickau and Nigel Williams-Goss. What Saint-Supéry offers is that same blend of control and aggression, a player who can both create and finish, not just make the first simple read after Ike gets doubled. It's not that they even lose facilitating. Saint-Supéry had a 25% assist rate. Nembhard's was only 29% in his first year at Gonzaga versus much inferior competition. The upside here is obvious. Gonzaga finally has a perimeter initiator who can score efficiently, pressure the rim, and still facilitate, rather than another pass-first guard who disappears against elite competition. If Few fully unleashes Saint-Supéry, Gonzaga's ceiling isn't just back to normal. It's much higher than it's been with Nembhard. Another gear when it all clicks. When you blend Ike's interior gravity with Saint-Supéry's pro-ready handle, Gonzaga suddenly has another gear. This isn't hypothetical. It's supported by per-possession efficiency and usage metrics. Last season's lineups were often limited by what Nembhard could do. Now, fully healthy and optimized, this team's offensive ceiling spikes dramatically. That's the kind of dynamic the AP voters seem to overlook. Put simply, Gonzaga's offense runs through Graham Ike. When you build correctly around him, shooters, cutters, and a pro-ready guard like Saint-Supéry, assist numbers rise, efficiency climbs, and the ceiling looks a lot like vintage Gonzaga. If the AP wants to bet on decline, fine. But all evidence points to another surge once they unleash their best lineup consistently. This is a program that hasn't finished worse than 12th in KenPom since 2016. Bottom line, the 16-spot gap between the AP poll and the top 5 where we had them is not just an anomaly. It's a window into a broader trend. Analytics recognize returning production, proven efficiency, and true roster upside in a way perception often does not. Gonzaga isn't slipping. They're poised to be one of the most efficient, versatile, and dangerous teams in college basketball once Few fully leans into his roster's strengths. Maybe he doesn't, and I'm wrong, but look at his track record. I'm betting on that every time when the talent lines up this well. This is even with having Tayon Grant-Foster as one of the most overhyped players in the nation in a previous write-up. That gives a window into just how underrated I think Ike and Saint-Supéry are nationally. Both can be top 25 type players in the nation and potentially lead Gonzaga as a serious title contender, in my estimation. And you're talking about the difference between a top 5 national title contender and a barely top 25 also ran in relevance. Next up, Baylor over BYU. This is a wow. One of the biggest gaps between our model and KenPom is Baylor somehow being rated ahead of BYU. According to our model, BYU sits at number 4 nationally, while Baylor doesn't come close, and the difference in roster quality explains exactly why. BYU has legitimate top-end and depth talent. Ajay Dibansa, number 7, Richie Saunders, number 11, and Kiba Keita, number 34, headline one of the most balanced and athletic lineups in the country. Even further down, Robert Wright at number 99 and Dawson Baker at number 467 provide experience and rotational stability. This is one of the most talented teams in our model. New, yes. Led by a freshman, yes. But clearly built to win right away. I think they would be better even without Dibansta. Baylor, on the other hand, has fallen off sharply. This is the weakest Baylor roster we've seen in years, and they were 30th last year in KenPom's own rankings. It seems like the money is catching up, and programs like BYU have started winning more of those recruiting battles, even head-to-head, stealing their best player. The roster is almost entirely new, and not a particularly impressive one. Baylor typically gets a lot out of freshmen, so maybe Tunde Yusufu, number 260, raises the ceiling, but there just aren't many high-upside options here. I see no VJ Edgecombe or Norchad Omier level player. Their top 6 include Obi Agbim, number 168, Michael Ruttage, number 172, Daniel Skillings, number 205, Yusufu again at 260, Caden Powell at 462, and J.J. White at 596. Not a single top 150 player in the mix compared to BYU's 3 inside the top 35. That's why our model, which rates players individually and then aggregates by roster strength, has BYU comfortably ahead. Coaching advantage certainly goes to Scott Drew. He's 8th in our active coaching rankings, but it's not about brand names or recent history. It's about current talent and construction. BYU simply grades out better across the board, and Coach Young was more than competent last year. And pretending otherwise just shows how reputation still clouds way too much of the preseason conversation. When looking at KenPom's historical rankings, it's important to remember that the coach is by far the single most important factor in a program's success. Sure, resources and tradition influence which coach a school can hire and the caliber of players they can attract. But the reality is the right coach can completely change a program. Hire someone like Kenny Payne, and you'll struggle, regardless of the roster or history. Put Kelvin Sampson at Boston College or Virginia Tech a decade ago, and those programs would likely have been winning at a high level. Past players or coaches who are no longer around don't really matter. The success of a program today is determined by who's on the sideline now. Just look at Auburn before Bruce Pearl or Alabama before Nate Oates. Prior mediocrity doesn't define current potential. Programs rise and fall with coaching impact far more than with historical reputation. Before we sign off, let's hit some of the more glaring gaps between the AP poll and our model, and why we feel so strongly about a few teams. Illinois, AP has them at number 17, KenPom at number 6, but our model slots them at number 7. This roster is loaded with top-end talent. Tomislav Ivasic, number 17 nationally, and Zvonimir Ivasic, number 116, anchor the front court, while Mihailo Petrovic, number 38, adds two-way upside from overseas. Kaylan Boswell, number 84, leads the backcourt, and Andrei Stojakovic, number 135, is a smooth wing scorer. Depth pieces like David Merkovich, number 233, and Ben Humrichus, number 258, round out a rotation that could realistically compete for a Final Four if the pieces click. AP voters clearly aren't giving them enough credit for size, skill, and international flavor. Michigan, ranked number 7 AP and number 14 in our model. Merez Johnson, number 47, versus Yaxel Lendeborg, number 63, anchor a strong front court with Elliot Cadeau, number 210, and Nimari Burnett, number 126, rounding out a versatile, talented roster. Their ceiling depends on roles and rhythm, but if the pieces click, they'll be a top Big Ten team. Wisconsin, AP barely has them in the 24 range, but our model pushes them to number 18. Nolan Winter, number 31, and John Blackwell, number 64, give Wisconsin a lethal combination of efficiency and precision. Rotation depth includes Nick Boyd, number 152, and Andrew Rode, number 369. They're built for execution, and if the supporting cast improves, they can challenge the top of the Big Ten again. Louisville, AP has them at 18, KenPom around 14, but our model drops them to 19. Sananda Frew, number 18, leads the team, and Ryan Conwell, number 97, and Adrian Woolley, your number 130, provide key scoring and experience. It's a talented roster, but our model sees ceiling limitations due to depth and role uncertainty. Vanderbilt, essentially invisible in the AP with just a few votes, but our model ranks them 22, and KenPom has them 19. Devin McLaughlin, number 24, leads a balanced roster with Tyler Harris, number 102, Frankie Collins, number 142, and Duke Miles, number 153. Adding scoring punch. This is one of those underrated teams voters are sleeping on. Texas Tech, AP has them 10, KenPom 12, and our model at 16. JT Toppin, number 6 nationally, is obviously the centerpiece, but depth behind him is questionable. Luke Bamboy, number 630, is largely unproven and could limit Toppin's impact if used incorrectly. Ole Miss, AP barely gives them votes. Our model puts them 21, KenPom at roughly 24. Malik Dia, number 101, and James Scott, number 101, anchor the team inside the top 150 nationally with strong supporting pieces in A.J. Storr, number 143, and Corin Johnson, number 146. Depth and balance give this team a chance to outperform their AP perception. Arkansas and Ohio State. Arkansas is 23 in our model versus 14 AP, showing the metrics aren't buying the hype. Malik Ewing, number 87, leads a solid front court, but depth is limited. Ohio State is 20 in our model versus barely receiving votes in the AP. Bruce Thornton, number 25, and Devin Royal, number 54, give them size, skill, and efficiency that the voters are undervaluing. Tennessee, AP has them 18, KenPom 9, and our model 11. Jacoby Gillespie, your number 39, and Nate Ament, number 39, give the team strong defensive foundations. Felix Okpara, number 65, adds scoring and length. This is a defensive-first system that consistently overperforms against expectations, which our model accounts for better than voters. And these discrepancies show how much talent-based national player rankings in our model can highlight gaps in perception. Some of these teams are underappreciated, some are overrated, and some could surprise the polls as the season unfolds. All right, that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got some good insights. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who'd find it useful. And don't forget to check out theresourcenexus.com for more in-depth analysis. Until next time, check you later.
Cool. Guess we'll see you around.
All right, check you later.
Bye.
Wait, man, why are you always such a dork, man? What are you talking about? Check you later. Check you later.